Namaste, everyone. Simon here, and today we're going to talk about secrets of Rohini and Mrigashiras Nakshatra. So, by the way, how do you pronounce that? Is it Mrigashira, Mrigashirsha? Some people write it Mrigashiras. The word uh, Shiras, is Shiras, but it's also Shirsha or Shiraha. Shiraha and Shiras are the same thing. So there's actually two words for the word head in Sanskrit. So that's why you'll see it double. And that actually speaks to some of the confusion about what is the actual star that represents Mrigashiras. Is it the head of the hunter, Orion, which is called Meisa, the star in its sort of uh, Latin, I believe, name, or maybe Arabic name? Is it El Nat, which is the head or the top of the horn of the bull of Taurus? Or is it, as I'm going to suggest today, a possibility, something else? Okay, so stay tuned. We're going to talk about secrets of Rohini and Mrigashira Nakshatra, and particularly and probably things you haven't heard or seen in textbooks or even in videos on YouTube and otherwise. So now, I do have a course on this stuff. It's called Nakshatra Secrets. You can access it by going to the link in the description. It covers a lot of this stuff. So that covers all 27 nakshatras. Today we're going to sort of give you some insights on two of them, and insights that you get by looking at the stars, the actual stars that make up these asterisms. Not a constellation is what we call a sign: Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. An asterism is a little signet. It's a little mini sign that is composed of one or sometimes a few stars, whereas a constellation is composed of many stars. And in the old days, in Vedic astrology, before signs were used, or constellations more properly, they used nakshatras or asterisms. And they didn't have, this is even before the nakshatras were a span of 13 degrees, 20 minutes. You have to remember, Vedic society is an old agrarian kind of society where people looked up and they saw the planets, and they would look at what was the background star. What were the stars behind the planets? The artificial distinctions of 30-degree signs and 13-degree, 20-minute nakshatras came later, okay? So if you think a nakshatra is always 13 degrees, 20 minutes, well, it hasn't always been that way. In fact, that's why there were 28 nakshatras long ago, if we include Abhijit. So today we're going to look at the nakshatras the way our ancestors did. And whether your ancestors are from ancient India, from Africa, from Europe, from Australia, North or South America, they all looked at the stars, okay? And they all attributed a meaning, a mythology onto those stars. So by reading the sky, it was like reading a book. And they didn't have books, right? The printing press is a recent invention. Even palm leaves, which we have in India to preserve some sacred knowledge, are relatively recent, meaning a few thousand years old. But even before then, our ancestors had an oral tradition. And that was based on reading the story of the stars. You can think of it like Braille, for the blind, where they put their hand over a page. The stars are like Braille because we are blind. As we live here on this planet, we're blind to our future. And Jyotisha, Vedic astrology, is the light, the eye of the Veda, and it allows us to see and to read our future. So in essence, it gives us eyes. And so by reading the stars, we're better able to understand our lives, our relationships, our spiritual place in this world, what our purpose is, what our career and profession should be. You know, like, why the hell am I here? And it allows us to know our place in the world and in the universe. So, okay, enough philosophy. Let's get to it, right? So, um, one way that we know the ancients were very much into the stars is by a hint they give us in some of the texts. And that hint is a particular principle called Rohini Shakata Bheda. Now, Rohini Shakata Bheda means the piercing of the triangle of Rohini by Mars, Saturn, or a comet. Now, there's an excellent paper on this, which is available on Google by Parag Mahajani, here, Mahajani, M.N. Vahia, Mr. Mohan Apte, and A.P. Jamkedkar. Okay? And and they reference the specific dates when this thing actually occurred in the sky. And the last time that it happened was about 5500 BC when Mars went through this. That means that the Vedic culture is at least that old, because they talk about this as a phenomenon. And they say that when Rohini is pierced by Mars or Saturn or a comet, then great catastrophe happens to the world. But before, 5284 BC, the last time before then was 9860 BC, 9828, basically 12,000 years ago. And that boggles the mind, and a lot of modern scholars are going to go, oh, that can't be it, that's not possible. But the more they uncover archaeological digs, the older Vedic civilization becomes. You get Mohenjo-daro, which is a few thousand years old. Then you get, more Indus Valley civilization digs find older and older cities. Well, I suspect they're going to keep pushing the dates back. And we know this based on the fact that they said, when you observe this happen, great calamity is going to happen. So I want to talk about this for a few minutes, and then we'll get to the meanings of Rohini. Now, why is this such a disaster? Well, first, let's read the verse here, which says, Rohini Shakatam Arkanandanaha Yadi Bhinnati Rudirotavashiki Kim Vadami Yadanishta Sagare Jagadashesham Upayati Sankshayam. This says, when the sun, S-O-N, of the sun, S-U-N, meaning Saturn, so Arkanandanaha is a name for Saturn, the son of the sun, or Rudira, the red one, Mars, the bloody one. Rudira in Ayurveda also means blood, and it's ruled by Raktadhatu, ruled by Mars. Or Shiki. Shiki is also a name for Krishna, someone who wears a peacock feather or who has a plume of hair, or Shika or Sika. Some people call it Sika. But it means a comet, right? Because it trails a plume behind it. When these pierce Rohini, Kim Vadami Yadanishta Sagare, what can I say, the author says? Meaning, alas, alas, what can I say? An ocean of suffering descends upon us, or literally an undesired ocean. The ocean goes where it's not supposed to go. And so here is the cool thing, or the weird thing, or the scary thing, is that right around these dates, 9,000 to 10,000 BC, is when there was mass flooding, when cities disappeared on the coasts. There are cities off the coast of South India that are underwater. You go in 20, 30 feet underwater, are temples. Well, this says, so obviously they existed before the rise of the ocean levels. So this says when this happens in an anishta sagara, an undesirable ocean comes to you, and we are sunk in it. So this is a major world disaster. So when does this happen? When in Taurus, Vrushe Saptadashe Bhage, at this around the 17th degree, Yasya Yam Yom Shakata Dvayat, around 2 degrees south declination, Saturn, the previous. So let's take a picture. Let's look at this and see what it looks like. I'm not going to spend the whole period in this, I promise. So if you're not interested in this, just hold on. All right. Let's take a look at where exactly this happens. So here is Taurus constellation. Let's just go one more. Here we go. So in the constellation of Taurus, there is this triangle of stars. Aldebaran, the star that represents Rohini Nakshatra, being the brightest. And it creates this triangle with 2 other stars, and this is the cart, the Shakata, the wain or carriage that is Rohini. So it says when Saturn or Mars in their course pass through here, this may signal massive world catastrophe. So why do I bring this up? Not to scare you, but to tell you that the ancients were looking at the sky, not just at the horoscope, which is this, right? They were looking at the sky and the path of the sun. This is called the ecliptic, close to which all of the other planets follow. So if you looked up at the sky and you can draw an imaginary line called the ecliptic across the heavens, and that's where the planets basically follow that line. Sometimes they're a little bit north of it, sometimes they're a little bit south of it. See here, Jupiter is north of it a little bit, Venus is a little bit north of it, Mercury is a little south of it, Mars is a little, this is if you're in the northern hemisphere, by the way. If you're in the southern hemisphere, things get flipped. Here's Mars, Saturn, the moon, etc. So this is the path that the sun follows through the sky. And this is what people looked at, not just this, which is what we're used to seeing. Okay. So what does this mean for us? Well, it means that we should all be aware of what are the yoga taras, the marker stars of each nakshatra. And knowing them, when a planet is very close to a marker star of a nakshatra, it will imbibe a lot more of that nakshatra's qualities than if it's, say, 7, 8, 9 degrees away from it. If it's 1 degree away from it, so if a planet is, say, right on top of Aldebaran, right? Let's see, like look at Venus here. Venus is pretty close, maybe a day or 2 before this slide. These slides are from an app called Stellarium. Okay, so you can go to stellarium.org, I believe. It's free to use online. You can go to your date of birth and pull up the sky and see what it looked like when you were born. This is a holy special day for you. You deserve to see where were the stars in relation to your place of birth, the moment you were born. Stellarium, a great, great app, free, use it. So in Stellarium, you can go forwards and backwards and see Venus would have been right on top of Aldebaran is the name of the star, which is the Yoga Tara, the marker star of Rohini. Then that Venus becomes especially infused with Rohini's energy. So let's talk about, all right, what are these secrets you've been promising us about Rohini and Mrigashiras, Mrigashira, the head of the deer? Well, let's start with Rohini. Rohini, every nakshatra has a deity, and you probably know the deity of Rohini is Brahma or Brahma. Now there's a difference. Brahman, spelled as you can see here on the right, is a neuter noun in Sanskrit, and it means undifferentiated undifferentiated consciousness. Pure, this is the end goal of Vedanta, of all spiritual practice. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman, Brahman is me, right? Brahma, or ritually pronounced Brahma, although it's spelled Brahma, this is one of those weird ones. There's I think one of two instances in Sanskrit where the thing is not pronounced the way it's written. In English, you just say one sentence, you'll find 5 things that are not pronounced as written. But in Sanskrit, there's only 2 in the entire language. And this is one of them. Because it's written with the H before, but it's often pronounced, especially ritually, with the M before. So it's written Brahma, but it's pronounced Brahma. Okay, so we won't get into why. So Brahma is the bearded creator god, and that is the deity of Rohini, not Brahman. Okay, Brahman is not a thing or a person, it's undifferentiated consciousness. So Brahma, the bearded god, is somewhat like the Judeo-Christian bearded god. He's a creation god. He creates things. And like all creators, he sometimes is jealous of or so proud of his creation that he becomes jealous. So Brahma created the goddess, his daughter. In some myths, she is Saraswati, the goddess of culture, art, beauty, but also primarily agriculture, believe it or not. People think Saraswati, she's playing the veena, and that she's this very sweet, kind of detached, and she is, but fundamentally, she gives people the culture, the knowledge to produce crops. That's why the Saraswati River in ancient India was the heart of the civilization. That river dried up sometime around 1500 BC, which means that the Vedic civilization dates way before that, because they talk about the Saraswati River as a giant flowing river. Well, the goddess Saraswati is the one who then brings agriculture, the art of boat making, of basket weaving, of language, the ability to communicate with your fellow villagers, to take a boat down the river and trade. These are Saraswati, and only then can you have art, poetry, culture, when your basic needs have been met. And so Rohini rules agriculture. This is why I'm bringing it up. So Brahma creates his daughter, Saraswati, and she in turn creates all these beautiful things, and he becomes so enamored of her. He lusts after her. Brahma is a lusty god, not only a jealous god, he's lusty at the same time. All educators, if you've read my book, The 5 Dharma Types, this is their weak point. They have passion and lust, which they keep bottled in. So every educator type, if you know your Dharma type, has to express that passion, that lust in some way, usually through a relationship. Whether you're a man or a woman, equally lust-driven educators. So if you just look at the educators in the world, famous celebrities, I get it. Tiger Woods, oh, I understand. Yep. And so forth. I won't name names. You can read my book for that. The point is that Brahma, the deity, is highly creative, but he's attached to his creation. He lusts after his daughter. He wants to consume her. And this is a lesson for all people born in Rohini, is that we are so proud of ourselves, our family, our team, our lineage. Oh, sure, well, I'm British. The empire, the sun never sets upon the British Empire, right? I identify with this. This is me, my culture. Whoa, ease the reins, pal. There are such things as other cultures. Dallas Cowboys ain't all there is. There are a bunch of other teams. So Rohini people have a thing where they are attached to what is their own family, but they also attract jealousy. Now, that's for a different reason, but in the Rohini myth, which you probably know about. But it's also connected to Saraswati because she attracted not only the lust of Brahma, but also the jealousy because she was creating things even more beautiful than him. And so he lusts after her and is at the same time jealous of her. So Rohini people will attract jealousy, especially if you're a Rohini woman. So if you were born with your moon or ascendant in the Rohini, you probably have experienced this phenomenon. And the antidote is simple. The antidote is give genuine compliments. If you see another woman, find something you find lovely, beautiful, or commendable in that person and say, wow, I really love your sense of humor. Wow, I love the way your hair looks. Wow, where did you get that purse? Or wow, your smile is so endearing. Find something sincere to compliment so that a person, there's a saying that you cannot badmouth someone at whose table you've had dinner. Meaning if they've served you food and you've taken it, you can't then go back and go, oh, that guy, he's such a jerk. It's bad karma. Likewise, a person can't be jealous, can't badmouth you if you've preemptively given them something good, something valuable. So the antidote, if you're a Rohini woman especially, is to be kind and give praise, compliments, and value to other women. Okay, and that will help neutralize this. Okay, so Aldebaran, the very passionate red glowing star that represents Rohini. Rohini means reddish, growing, climbing, rising. All those etymologically are related to Ruh, which is the root sound of Rohini. And this star embodies those qualities. Again, in my course, Nakshatra Secrets, we talk about all of the different sort of meanings of, like, for example, people with Rohini, especially the fourth lord, or if a planet is in the fourth house in Rohini, they'll like trucks, SUVs, big vehicles, tanks, tractors, literally, because Rohini is a tractor in the modern sense. It's a cart for hauling agricultural supplies. So we talk about all of these things in the course, which we're not going to get to in this little video, but these are a couple of the secrets of Rohini that are connected not only to the stars, but also to the deity that rules Rohini. And one last thing, notice that the star is the eye of the bull. And the Rohini is attached to pleasure and desire because what the eye sees, the eye wants. And again, this is a good practice, is to practice trying to see through the third eye if you are a Rohini rather than the two eyes, not to be led by your senses, although it's a very difficult thing to say. Okay. There are also herbs for each nakshatra, and I cover those in a separate video. It's a free video on here on YouTube. You can find it. And it's called Nakshatras and Herbs, I believe. So the herb for Rohini is neem and jambu. Okay, so that means that throughout your life, if you're a Rohini ascendant or moon person, or even if the ruler of your ascendant is Rohini, but keep it simple, moon or ascendant, then a lifelong use of the herb neem would be good for you. Neem is bitter, and it helps control desire. So yogis and yoginis traditionally take neem to help them control their sexual impulse. They also wear those wooden sandals with the giant thing for the, where the toe goes, because that is a special marma point. And when you hit that marma point with the sandal, it's supposed to stop your sexual desire. But okay, what if I'm not a yogi? You could still use neem. It's fine. It'll keep you balanced. Now, Mrigashira Nakshatra also has neem and Ashoka. Ashoka is a herb for women, especially to help with their periods, so they don't have painful cramps. So these two herbs are good for both of these nakshatras. Again, you can look up that video elsewhere on YouTube. So let's take a look at Mrigashira Nakshatra. And I mentioned earlier that there is some debate about, well, heck, what is the actual star of Mrigashira? And so let's first of all take a look. Now, there are official stars, which you'll see here. So for Rohini, it's Aldebaran at 16 degrees. For Mrigashira, probably Meisa at 2950 Taurus. For Ardra, it's a Betelgeuse, just don't say that 3 times, at about 5 degrees Gemini, and so forth. But I'd like to propose something to you that's takes this a step further. Mrigashira Nakshatra literally means the deer's head. And so the typical star associated with the Mrigashira is this one here, which is the head of the hunter Orion. Now let's see if I can't make this a little bit bigger so we can all see. All right. Hopefully you can see this. So the head of Orion is right here. You can see this is Orion. And this is the star at 2950 Taurus. But there are 2 other options. The other option is the tip of the horn, a star called El Nat. And you can see these are pretty much on the same degree latitude. The third option is, and this is something that I've never heard presented, but it's a star called Brahma Hridaya in Sanskrit, or Capella is the Latin term for the. Capella means the little goat. And it's in the constellation Auriga. Auriga is the charioteer. Now, you have to understand, these isn't just images people saw in the sky. That's total bull. Forget that. Okay. Modern scholars say, oh, the ancients were so primitive. They looked at the sky and, they saw pictures there. No, it's the reverse. They looked at the sky. They understood that part of the sky has a particular meaning. And so they attributed something that can help them remember. Remember, this is a story. You're writing your myths upon the heavens. So they called this the chariot because who rides in a chariot? Someone who stands above the world. The Arya, the noble people. The chariot helps you be above it all. It helps you so your feet don't touch the dirty earth. So Capella is a star at the height of Auriga, the chariot, that represents our highest virtues, our highest aspirations. It's a highly auspicious star. And it's called the heart of Brahman, the heart of God in Sanskrit. And so now the problem is no planet in its course will ever touch that star. So that's the cool thing about these myths, is they show you that we can only aspire to this, but a planet will never reach up here, at least not in our modern times. Maybe if the ecliptic moves up, thousands of years from now, it will be possible in a different yuga, in a different, world age. But that would be literally thousands of years from now. So Capella represents the ideal. And the question with people who have Mrigashira prominent, Mrigashira is associated with searching, hunting, and questing. Questing for what? For Soma. The deity of this nakshatra is Soma. Soma is that elusive thing that we're all looking for. For some person, it's money. For another person, it's health and physical strength. For another person, it's political power. For a fourth person, it's a loving relationship. For a fifth person, it's enlightenment, spiritual enlightenment. For a sixth person, it's physical immortality, which is what Soma is directly associated with, which is the nectar of immortality. But really, it's just a placeholder. It's a placeholder for that thing that you crave, that you are searching for more than anything else. And so what is this Soma? It's what the hunter is after. It's what he's lusting after. It's what Brahma is lusting after. It's what everyone wants, which is ultimately it's immortality. But true immortality is not in a physical body. It's being one with the universe. So the star that represents this best in its highest sense is Capella. But we'll never reach it. We can only aspire to it. So the intermediary between the hunter, who represents our lowest desires, our desires for power, money, fame, food, sex, all these things, which Mrigashira goes after, it wants these things. The intermediary is this star called El Nat. Now, this is not Spanish, El Nat. This is Arabic, actually. And so this star is close enough for planets to reach. It represents the middle ground. But all three of these are in the same range of the zodiac, between about 28 degrees Taurus to 30 degrees Taurus. Okay, so these are the sensitive degrees in the constellation Taurus, where if you have a planet there, more than like within, now how close? Probably within 1 Navamsha, so let's say within 3 degrees, 20 minutes. If you want to be really strict, keep it to 2 degrees, 30 minutes. And if you want to be paka, like book, very strict, keep it to 1 degree. So if you have a planet within 1 degree, within this span, or a little more liberally within a couple of degrees, then it will carry the meanings of Mrigashira Nakshatra very strongly. But then you have to look at the sky to see, hey, was that planet actually down here? See where Venus is, which is much closer to Orion, to the more earthy desires? Or was it up here, kind of where the moon is here somewhere, closer to the middle ground, where the search is going to be on more an intellectual level? It's going to be on a higher level, on a higher plane. This is where you need to look at the sky to find out. You can't look at the chart. Well, actually, you can. I take that back. So let's snap out of here for a second. You can look at something called the declination. You can look at, within the chart, you can look at where that planet is placed. And most of your advanced software will show you, actually I don't have it set up here, how far up or down that planet is located from the ecliptic. But it's still more useful to do it, to look at the image. So what's the deal with Mrigashira then? Well, what have we learned so far? That there are sensitive points in every nakshatra that when your planet or ascendant or cusp, your 10th cusp, your 4th cusp, is close to it. For example, if the 5th cusp of your horoscope, what's a cusp, Simon? Okay, if you don't know what's a cusp, it's okay. We'll come to that at another time. But for those who know what a cusp is, if your 5th cusp is right on the star Rohini, Aldebaran, it means your child will be highly creative. Your child will have these qualities. Maybe your child will want to drive a truck. Who knows? But probably very creative children. Okay, if your 10th cusp is on the star Aldebaran, probably your career involves a lot of creativity, or possibly agriculture. Depends. Okay, that's one thing. So the proximity to the cusp matters. The second thing is that you have to know the deity and the myths associated with that deity to fully understand these nakshatras. And then the third thing is to understand what are the placements of these stars relative to the ecliptic. Anyway, so in a previous video, I talked about Vishakha Nakshatra and how, depending on where in that nakshatra your planet is, you're likely to have a very different experience of that star. Vishakha, to jog your memory, is ruled by Indra and Agni. So are you going to have the Indra experience, which is one thing at 26 degrees of Libra sidereal, or are you going to have the Agni experience at 21 degrees, which is very different? A lot of obstacles, a lot of push that you have to do to fight to get accepted into the, to push your way through the triumphal archway, which is the symbol of Vishakha. Whereas at 26 degrees, you're welcomed through it. Please come join our elite group. So likewise, understanding the placement of your planet in Rohini and Mrigashiras Nakshatra can give you some insight into that planet's expression in the life. All right, I have talked way too much today. That's enough out of me. And if you like this, please leave a little comment. To find out and to learn more, check out Nakshatra Secrets, the course below. And I will see you in the next one. Namaste, everyone.